くした約束は星に思い出はどけない
Animals in anime have been a thing for a very, very long time. Ever since the first appearance of an animal in an anime in the form of a cat in Keion, it has been obvious that they'd play a special role in the medium. For indeed, if you look at any anime nowadays, an animal is sure to play a role in it. And if it isn't a big role, then there's at least still one there. You might think that this is only natural if you base an anime off of real life, a fantasy world, or any kind of world where there is a functional ecosystem. And you'd be right, that does make sense, it is only natural. But the thing is that animals don't just appear in anime worlds as they do in the real world, where they just exist because they do. No, someone has to painstakingly animate them into the world for an express purpose. With this in mind, I find animals being in an anime at all hard to explain with the "it only makes sense" kind of logic. So in other words, something has to be behind it all. Take the previously mentioned first ever anime to have an animal in it, Keion, as an example. After the cat that appears in the first scene of the show is given quite the good care by our main character, said main character goes on to grow an affinity towards her underclassman and dresses her up as a cat, even giving her a cutesy cat-related nickname. Now, the same explanation to the animals being in anime issue can be given here too, what with them being girls in high school and thus only being naturally inclined to do cutesy things. But here too, it has to be more than just a coincidence. For the first creature we ever see Yui give affection to is the cat, only for what would become her most affectionate friend being strongly tied to cats. So again, something more must be going on here. That something I suspect to be the bridging of the gap between what is real and what isn't. Think about it. A cat appearing like that, and a person later being a cat girl, does imply the merging of the two entities. Something I'm sure I don't have to tell you isn't very accurate to real life. Now, in the subsequent appearances in anime after this, it's not exactly rare that the animal is one of these so-called cat girls or cat boys, something that only solidifies the merging scene in their first ever appearance. Take the anime Kemono Friends as an example. Here, all different kinds of animals are made into anime girls to be presented on your screen. To those interested, yes, there is some lore behind this, but that's hardly important to my point here. The main character, who is the only human among the titular friends, goes around visiting all these different types of animal girls, and encounters everything from a moose to a desert fox. Unfortunately not that one, no. Anyways, all the animals in the show act very similarly to each other, that is to say, humanly. Except for one special skill which is tied to the animal that they are. So in most ways, they are just human, with the only thing that makes them animals being their clothes, headwear, and unique skills. Further examples of this can be found in Toradora, where humans act as animals, and Hisoneto Masotan, where the military are using animals as fighter jets. All this does is normalize the merging of what is real and what isn't, where a human cannot simply be an animal in real life, yet it's somehow being a very omnipresent concept in anime. This is clearly to bridge the gap between reality and fiction, and make it harder for people to separate the two, even if it's just subconsciously. Because of this fundamental element in most anime, a lot of anime watchers have gotten into a culture of waifus or husbandos, i.e., a fictional character they like so much that they practically consider them their wives or husbands. And once again, you might assume this only to be natural in such a lonely and desperate audience. But no. This all just fits too neatly together for it all to be a coincidence. You see, because of this so-called waifu culture, a lot of people are buying what would otherwise be useless items and merchandise for a very high price. Not only that, but the cute anime gal can also help boost sales or ratings of a series because of the amount of people that are now into such things. In the end, it all fills the pocket of the anime producers and distributors, Unless you're one of them woke fellers. And it is thus safe to conclude that they are ultimately to blame for this as well. Though if you just wanted to make some money, there are some way more efficient ways of doing that than making an entire studio, nay, an entire industry go down a certain path with their creative choices to appeal to lonely young men. No, something more has to be at play, and I believe that the answer to this can be found staring us right in the face in the anime I first mentioned here, K-On! Throughout parts of the anime, and all of the movie, a special emphasis is placed on a certain little nation. A certain little nation that, if you have watched my channel at all, should be no surprise showing up here as well. A special little nation called England. Much of the iconography in the show revolves around the British flag, for example. Stickers and clothing being where this is most obvious, but even the trees in the play they put on for the cultural festival have an oddly familiar shape to them. Speaking of the cultural festival, the main event for the main cast's class is their performance of Romeo and Juliet, i.e., one of the most iconic cultural exports to have ever come out of England. William Shakespeare. Coincidentally, or maybe not so coincidentally, it was during his lifetime that one normally says that the emergence of the empire began, and England began setting her scheme for worldwide influence into action. In the movie though, the relative subtlety of this previous imagery gets thrown straight out of the window when the girls go to London and do all kinds of Anglo things while there. They recreate famous English pop culture, and even do something that Ritsu and Yui wanted to avoid doing for the duration of their lifetime. Speaking English. This sudden switch from what we are used to seeing in regards to England in K-On! Can easily be explained, however, when you look at the animation quality. It's easy for anyone to make the case that this is one of the best looking animated movies of all time, and with all that I've now said, it's not exactly hard to see where they got the budget for this from. Of course it was the Anglos. It always is, always has been and will continue to be so. Question is, why would they want to enslave so many of the young people of the world to their fictional anime women? Maybe this is all related to what they wanted to do with the invention of the computer, sucking away all the autism of the world into the fiction that is EU4. I mean, a lot of anime watchers are pretty autistic. Oi there, mate. Hear what you've been saying on the internet about us for a while now. Bloody road. Fish and chips. Oh god no. They finally caught up with me. Well, it's not like I didn't get any warning about it. Several times. What I've endured. Taking my brother from me even. No. Now I will not be as surprised by them as before. I know they're coming now. It is finally time for me to get my revenge against the people that have ruined my life. Even if it's just a minuscule amount out of the overall Anglo threat, my actions will send a clear message. Who knows? Maybe even more people will feel inspired by my actions. Got a license to be speaking about us like that on the internet? Wait. Bet you don't. And if you don't, there'll be no one who can stop us from furthering our plans once we've dealt with you. What the? I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious it that grace appear, the hour I first